Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started.
Tonight, we will journey into some of the most extraordinary secrets hidden within nature. We will discover creatures capable of defying time, forests that communicate in silence, oceans filled with invisible lights, and phenomena so astonishing they seem to belong to science fiction, even though they are completely real. Get comfortable, let your curiosity guide you, and join me on a journey where every discovery reveals that the world is far more amazing than we ever imagined. Trees whisper to one another through a hidden network. In the stillness of a forest, a secret conversation is taking place beneath your feet. Trees, long thought to be solitary giants, are connected by underground networks of fungal threads known as mycorrhizae. Through these delicate filaments, trees exchange nutrients, send chemical signals, and even share warnings about pests or drought. Older trees, sometimes called mother trees, support their offspring by channeling sugars and resources through this hidden network. This is not a metaphor. It is a biological network so vast and complex that some scientists have begun calling it the wood wide web. A birch tree may support a neighboring fir. A dying tree may pass its last reserves of energy to the forest. It is a quiet form of intelligence, not conscious, but deeply cooperative. In this silent world of roots and fungi, the forest is not a collection of individuals, but a single community that breathes and shares. Your body is more microbe than human. You may feel like a single person, one body, one mind. But in reality, you are an entire living community. Your body contains more microbial cells than human cells. Trillions of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and archaea live on your skin, inside your mouth, and deep within your gut. This collection is called your microbiome. And it is not just along for the ride. It helps digest your food, trains your immune system, produces vitamins, and even influences your mood and behavior. In many ways, the microbiome is an extension of your body's own intelligence, a vast and invisible partner in nearly everything you do. Some microbes protect you, while others compete with invading organisms. And just as no two fingerprints are alike, your microbiome is uniquely yours. So the next time you feel alone, remember that you are never truly alone. You are a walking ecosystem, one world within another. Ants can build bridges with their own bodies. In the forests of South America, army ants are constantly on the move, flowing across the jungle floor like a living river. But when they reach a gap or obstacle, they do not stop. Instead, they build bridges out of themselves. One ant anchors itself to a branch. Another climbs onto its back. Then another, and another, until a living structure takes shape, flexible, and strong. Thousands of ants can join together, adjusting in real time to the weight and traffic passing over them. Once the colony has crossed, the bridge comes apart, and the ants rejoin the march. These living bridges are not directed by a leader. Instead, they emerge from local decisions. Each ant responds to its neighbors, guided by instinct and touch. It is a remarkable example of collective intelligence, a shape-shifting structure made entirely of living creatures. One body among many, all working as one. Octopuses can rewrite their own RNA. In the silent depths of the ocean, the octopus drifts like a dream, changing shape, changing color, and watching with strange, unsettling eyes. It is already one of the most intelligent creatures on Earth. But what lies beneath is even stranger. Octopuses can edit their own RNA, the molecular instructions that translate DNA into proteins. While most animals stick to the genetic code they were born with, octopuses can make real-time adjustments to the way their genes are expressed. This means they can fine-tune their biology as they go, altering how their neurons function, how they perceive their surroundings, or how they respond to temperature and stress. It is not the same as changing their DNA, but it gives them remarkable flexibility. We still do not fully understand why or how they do this, but it adds yet another mystery to a creature that already seems to have come from another world. Life has survived 5 mass extinctions. Life on Earth is ancient and astonishingly resilient. Over the past 500 million years, our planet has experienced at least 5 mass extinction events. Each one wiped out the majority of the species living at that time. The most devastating, known as the Permian extinction, eliminated more than 90% of marine life and 70% of terrestrial species. Volcanoes, asteroids, climate change. Each time, the world changed, and each time, life returned. Not the same life, but something new. From the ashes of extinction, ecosystems were reshaped. Tiny survivors became the ancestors of entirely new lineages. It is a quiet testament to the persistence of biology. Life does not simply endure. It adapts, evolves, and reinvents itself. We are part of that story, born from ancient survivors who endured darkness and silence and found a way forward, an unbroken thread stretching even through catastrophe. Fungi can control the behavior of insects. In the damp twilight of a forest, a strange drama unfolds, one that blurs the line between organism and puppeteer. Certain fungi, such as Ophiocordyceps, infect insects like ants, invading their bodies and nervous systems. Once inside, the fungus begins to grow, releasing chemicals that alter the insect's behavior. The ant, now under the fungus's control, climbs high into the vegetation and clamps onto a leaf or branch. Then it stops. The fungus kills its host, and a stalk emerges from the body, releasing spores to infect others below. It is a chilling and precise cycle perfected over millions of years. Scientists still do not fully understand how the fungus manipulates the nervous system so effectively. But in this silent war of biology, even the smallest organisms wield astonishing power. The forest is more than green and peaceful. It is filled with invisible strategies, some elegant and others terrifying. Color blue is rare in nature. Look around you, the sky, the ocean, the shimmer of butterfly wings. Blue is everywhere. And yet, in the natural world, blue is one of the rarest pigments. Most blue creatures, such as blue jays, morpho butterflies, or peacocks, do not actually contain blue pigment at all. Instead, their color comes from structure. Microscopic patterns on their surfaces bend and scatter light in a way that reflects blue wavelengths. This is called structural coloration, and it is an optical illusion created by shape rather than pigment. True blue pigments are difficult for living organisms to produce, and very few have succeeded. That makes every natural blue a kind of illusion, an interaction between light and the tiniest architecture. So the next time you catch a flash of blue in nature, remember that you are not just seeing color. You are watching light dance along the boundary between biology and physics. Elephants mourn their dead. Across the grasslands and dusty plains of the savanna, elephants do something that very few other animals do. They grieve. When an elephant encounters the bones of a deceased relative or companion, it slows down. It gently touches the remains with its trunk. It pauses. Some have been observed returning to the same place years later, carefully examining the bones once again. Elephants have even been seen standing vigil over dying companions, staying close and refusing to leave. Their grief may not be exactly like ours, but it is something deeply felt. They form strong family bonds, remember old companions, and seem to carry an emotional weight. It is a quiet truth that humbles us, that empathy, loss, and love may not belong to humans alone. Within the hearts of these great and gentle giants, something ancient and tender stirs, a recognition of life's impermanence. Coral reefs are built by tiny animal architects. Coral reefs are among the most vibrant ecosystems on Earth, but they are not built by plants or rocks. They are built by animals. Every coral is a colony of tiny creatures called polyps. They feed by extending stinging tentacles to capture plankton. They build their homes by secreting calcium carbonate, creating the stony skeletons that form the reefs. Over time, these skeletons accumulate, forming massive underwater structures that can stretch for hundreds of miles. And within these reefs, life flourishes. Fish, crustaceans, mollusks, sea turtles, and countless others. Despite covering less than 1% of the ocean floor, coral reefs support nearly 1/4 of all marine life. They are living cities built not by design, but through the slow work of millions of invisible architects. Delicate, colorful, and deeply vulnerable, coral reefs are a reminder of how much life can be built by the smallest of hands. Slime molds can solve mazes without a brain. They look like something out of a science fiction movie, and in many ways, they behave like it too. Slime molds are single-celled organisms that live in soil, decaying wood, and other damp environments. They have no brain, no nervous system, and yet they can solve mazes. In laboratory experiments, scientists place a slime mold inside a maze with food at 2 exits. The slime mold spreads in every direction, then pulls back, leaving behind the most efficient path between the 2 points. It does not think. It does not plan. Yet somehow, it finds the solution. Slime molds use chemical gradients and feedback to explore their surroundings, a kind of distributed intelligence written into their bodies. They have even been used to model transportation networks, revealing surprising similarities to human systems. It is a strange and fascinating reminder that intelligence comes in many forms. Not all of them require a brain. The Amazon rainforest creates its own rain. The Amazon rainforest does not simply absorb rain, it creates it. Every day, as sunlight warms the canopy, billions of trees release moisture into the air through a process called transpiration. This vapor rises, cools, and condenses into clouds, which then fall again as rain, nourishing the forest below. It is a cycle so vast and efficient that the Amazon generates much of its own weather. This self-sustaining loop helps regulate the climate of an entire continent and even influences weather patterns across the Atlantic Ocean. The forest is not just a collection of trees, but a vast breathing system. And when parts of it are lost to deforestation or fire, the cycle weakens, rainfall declines, and drought spreads. The Amazon is often called the lungs of the earth, but it is also the quiet beating heart of South America's skies, driving moisture, breath, and life into the very air. Some frogs freeze completely and still survive. In the frozen stillness of winter, some frogs undergo one of the most astonishing transformations in the animal kingdom. They freeze. They do not simply slow down. They literally become solid. The North American wood frog can survive frozen for days or even weeks. Its heart stops. Its blood turns to ice. Its organs shut down, and its body becomes completely rigid. But thanks to natural antifreeze compounds in its tissues, the frog's cells remain unharmed. When spring returns and temperatures rise, the ice melts, and the frog wakes up, hopping away as though nothing had happened. It is not a metaphor. It is cryogenic survival perfected by evolution. Scientists study these frogs in hopes of learning how to preserve human tissues or better understand extreme biological resilience. For now, they remain quiet miracles of adaptation. Tiny amphibians that defy winter's grip and return, heartbeat by heartbeat, to the living world. Whales can sing across entire oceans. Beneath the surface of the sea, songs travel through the darkness. Long, slow, and haunting, the calls of blue whales can travel thousands of miles underwater. These low-frequency vocalizations are among the loudest and deepest sounds produced by any animal, and in the silent depths they can echo from coast to coast. Whales use these songs to find mates, navigate, and communicate across vast distances. Each population has its own dialect, and their songs can evolve over time, passed down like oral traditions. Some species, such as humpback whales, create long and complex melodies that change from year to year as different whales contribute new phrases. We still do not fully understand everything they are saying, but we know it matters. These are not random sounds. They are messages shared through an underwater world by creatures that have traveled Earth's oceans longer than any human memory. Seeds can remain dormant for thousands of years. Seeds are tiny travelers through time. They may appear simple and lifeless, but inside they carry the blueprint for life and, sometimes, incredible patience. Some seeds can remain dormant for decades, even centuries, waiting for the perfect moment to sprout. In one remarkable case, a date palm seed discovered at a 2,000-year-old archaeological site successfully germinated in modern times. It had slept through empires, seasons, and silence. Then, with water and warmth, it awakened and began to grow. Many seeds survive freezing temperatures, fire, or burial beneath yards of soil. They are equipped with protective coatings, complex chemistry, and a finely tuned sensitivity to their surroundings. When the time is right, not before, they begin again. Inside every seed is a quiet promise that life can wait, endure, and return. A single grain of stillness holding the future within its shell. Bioluminescence has evolved more than 40 times. The glow of fireflies, the shimmer of plankton in the surf, the flickering lure of a deep-sea anglerfish. These lights are not borrowed. They are created by life itself. Bioluminescence, the ability to produce light through chemical reactions, has evolved independently at least 40 times across the tree of life. From bacteria to fungi, from squid to jellyfish, organisms have developed their own ways of glowing. Some use light to attract prey, while others use it to warn predators. Some use it to find mates or to disappear in plain sight. In the deep ocean, where sunlight never reaches, bioluminescence is everywhere. A floating, flickering constellation of living stars. The chemistry is elegant. An enzyme called luciferase interacts with a light-producing molecule called luciferin, releasing energy in the form of visible light. Simple, quiet, and breathtaking. A shared language of light that life has written again and again in caves, across waves, and in the farthest corners of the darkness. Your bones are made of stardust. It is not poetry. It is physics. The calcium in your bones, the very structure that keeps you standing, was forged in the hearts of ancient stars. In the final moments of a massive star's life, elements heavier than helium are created through nuclear fusion. When the star explodes as a supernova, those elements are scattered across space. Over time, they drift into clouds of dust and gas, mixing and settling until gravity pulls them together once more. Planets form, oceans rise, and eventually, on a small blue world, life begins. The calcium, iron, carbon, and oxygen in your body all came from those ancient stars. You do not simply live in the universe. You are the universe arranged into a pattern capable of thinking, breathing, and wondering. You are literally made of stardust walking across a world shaped by light and time. Some insects can see ultraviolet light. When you look at a flower, you see color, perhaps yellow, red, or blue. But for many insects, especially bees, flowers look completely different. That is because they can see ultraviolet light, a part of the spectrum that is invisible to the human eye. To them, an ordinary-looking petal may glow with bright patterns, landing guides, and radiant rings, all designed to lead them to the nectar inside. These patterns are not just beautiful. They are functional, shaped by mutual benefit through evolution. The flower is pollinated. The bee is fed. Other insects use ultraviolet vision to navigate, find mates, or detect predators. Even the humble cabbage butterfly sees the world in shades we cannot imagine. So, although we share the same planet, we do not share the same visual world. There is a hidden spectrum all around us, filled with signals of light and colors that we will never be able to fully see. Kangaroos can pause their pregnancies. Deep in the Australian outback, kangaroos possess a remarkable secret, the ability to pause time within their own bodies. When conditions are difficult or when a joey is already in the pouch, a mother kangaroo can delay the development of a fertilized egg. This phenomenon, called embryonic diapause, allows her body to wait until the right moment to continue the pregnancy. She may be raising one joey outside the womb, another in the pouch, and have a third on pause, all at the same time. When food becomes plentiful or the pouch is empty, the embryo resumes its development. It is a brilliant survival strategy for an unpredictable climate. This natural pause button allows kangaroos to time their reproduction with incredible precision. In a land of extremes, nature has given them flexibility, a mastery over time written into their biology. Some fish can change sex. In the colorful chaos of coral reefs, some fish possess an astonishing secret. They can change from male to female or vice versa. Clownfish, for example, live in small social groups with a strict hierarchy. The largest fish is female, and only she reproduces with the dominant male. If she dies, the male changes sex and becomes the new matriarch. In other species, such as wrasses, females can become males, often when the dominant male disappears. This transition is not merely behavioral, it is biological. Hormones change, reproductive organs are restructured, and roles are reversed. It is a natural adaptation that helps maintain reproduction in dynamic environments. In the ocean, identity is not always fixed. It can change with necessity, opportunity, or the shifting currents of chance. And in these quiet transformations, we see just how fluid life can be. Flexible, responsive, and endlessly surprising. Birds navigate using Earth's magnetic field. Every year, birds travel thousands of miles across mountains, oceans, and even continents, returning to the same nesting sites with astonishing precision. How do they do it? Part of the answer lies deep within their biology, the ability to sense Earth's magnetic field. Some birds have tiny crystals of magnetite in their beaks or heads that act as internal compasses. Others may use specialized proteins in their eyes, allowing them to perceive magnetic fields as visual patterns or signals. This magnetic sense, known as magnetoreception, works together with the sun, the stars, and the landscape to guide their journey. It is a subtle and elegant system, an ancient map embedded within the nervous system. We still do not understand every detail, but we know it works. Birds find their way home not only through memory or instinct, but by sensing the invisible forces surrounding the Earth itself. Earth breathes through the carbon cycle. Earth is alive in more ways than we often realize, and one of its deepest rhythms is the carbon cycle. Carbon moves through the air, water, plants, animals, and rocks in a slow, interconnected flow. When you exhale, you release carbon dioxide. Plants absorb it during photosynthesis, building leaves, stems, and roots. Animals eat those plants. Decomposers break down what remains. Volcanoes release it. Oceans absorb it. Some of this carbon becomes fossil fuels, some becomes stone, and some remains in the atmosphere. This global exchange helps regulate the climate, sustain life, and shape ecosystems. It is a cycle that moves not only through years, but through entire ages. And at this moment, it is out of balance, disrupted by human activity. Understanding this cycle helps us see Earth not as something static, but as something that breathes in and out, light and darkness, growth and decay. A living system quietly turning through space. Bacteria were the first builders of Earth's surface. Before plants, before animals, even before the oxygen we breathe, there were bacteria. And some of them built structures that are still standing today. Stromatolites are ancient rock formations found in shallow waters around the world. They are created by cyanobacteria, microbes that trap and bind sediment over time, layer by layer. Fossilized stromatolites date back more than 3.5 billion years. They are among the oldest known evidence of life on Earth. These microbial communities helped shape the planet's surface and atmosphere, releasing oxygen as a byproduct of photosynthesis. Over time, that oxygen changed everything, paving the way for complex life. Today, living stromatolites can still be found in places such as Shark Bay, Australia. Quiet, strange, and ancient, they stand as monuments to the earliest engineers, builders without tools, architects without eyes. Just patient microscopic life laying the foundation for everything that followed. Dolphins have names for one another. In the shimmering blue of the ocean, dolphins communicate through a complex language of clicks and whistles. But there is something even more remarkable. They appear to have names. Each dolphin develops a unique signature whistle early in life, a kind of acoustic identity. Other dolphins learn and remember this whistle, using it to call specific individuals. It is not imitation. It is recognition. When researchers played back a dolphin's signature whistle, the animal responded much as a person would respond to hearing their own name. This behavior suggests a level of social memory and identity once thought to be unique to humans. Dolphins live in complex, ever-changing groups. Being able to identify and keep track of individuals helps them maintain bonds, manage relationships, and navigate their fluid social world. In the depths of the sea, dolphins speak, and in their calls we catch a glimpse of something extraordinary. The roots of language echoing beneath the waves. The Sahara was once a lush green paradise. Today, the Sahara stretches like a golden sea, vast, hot, and dry. But not long ago, it was something completely different. Approximately 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, much of the Sahara was green. Rain fell regularly, rivers flowed, lakes shimmered in the sunlight, wildlife roamed across the grasslands. Elephants, crocodiles, giraffes, and humans lived there, leaving behind rock paintings of an abundant life. This period, known as the African humid period, was driven by subtle changes in Earth's orbit that altered the strength of seasonal monsoons. Over time, the rains disappeared, and the desert returned. But deep beneath the sand lie ancient lake beds, fossilized trees, and buried evidence of a transformed world. The Sahara is not just a desert. It is a memory. A reminder that even the harshest landscapes were once gentle, green, and full of life, and could someday become so again. Bees can understand the concept of zero. They are tiny, they buzz, and they pollinate our world. But bees can also do something astonishing. They appear to understand zero. In experiments, bees were trained to associate fewer shapes with a sweet reward. When they were shown a blank card with no shapes at all, they correctly chose it over cards containing one or more shapes. This suggests that bees understand the abstract idea that nothing is less than something. Only a few animals, such as chimpanzees, dolphins, and parrots, have demonstrated this type of numerical reasoning. The fact that bees, with their tiny brains, can do the same is remarkable. It hints at a form of intelligence that is not limited by brain size, but shaped by necessity and evolution. Inside a hive, thousands of minds work as one. But even an individual bee holds surprises. A small body, a powerful mind, a quiet buzz, and a brilliant brain. Wolves changed the shape of rivers. When wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park in the 1990s, something incredible happened. They did not only affect deer populations, they reshaped the entire landscape. With fewer animals grazing, vegetation along riverbanks began to recover. Trees and shrubs grew taller. Birds returned. Beavers built dams. Healthier plant life stabilized the soil, reducing erosion and changing the way water flowed. In some places, rivers became narrower, more winding, and more stable. This phenomenon, known as a trophic cascade, shows how a single species can affect an entire ecosystem. Wolves, simply by doing what wolves do, created a chain reaction that transformed forests, waterways, and animal populations. It is a powerful reminder that nature is interconnected in ways we often cannot see. Every creature plays a role, sometimes subtle, sometimes profound, and in the howl of a returning wolf, the land begins to heal. Flowers can hear the buzzing of bees. We often think of flowers as passive beings, colorful, fragrant, and still, but some flowers are listening. Research has shown that certain plants can respond to the sound of a bee's buzzing. When a pollinator approaches, the vibration of its wings causes the flower to produce sweeter nectar within minutes. The flower does not have ears, of course, but its petals vibrate in response to the sound, acting as sensory organs that detect specific frequencies. This helps ensure that the plant offers a better reward exactly when a pollinator is nearby. It is a silent dialogue. The bee calls, and the flower responds. This subtle acoustic awareness adds another layer to our understanding of plant behavior. Even without nerves or brains, plants can sense, respond, and adapt in real time. The garden is not silent. It is filled with delicate, buzzing conversations. Lichens are two organisms living as one. On rocks, tree bark, and mountain cliffs, you will find lichens, simple patches of wrinkled color clinging to the surface. But these quiet organisms hold a surprising truth. They are not a single life form, but two, or sometimes more. A lichen is a partnership between a fungus and an alga, or cyanobacterium. The fungus provides structure and protection. The photosynthetic partner produces food from sunlight. Together, they survive in places too harsh for either one alone, from the Arctic tundra to dry deserts. It is not always a peaceful partnership. Sometimes the fungus dominates, controlling the alga. But the result is resilience, a combined form of life capable of thriving where few others can. Lichens are ancient, stable, and essential to many ecosystems, breaking down rock into soil, providing food, and creating shelter. Two species, one life. A silent collaboration written across the surface of the world. Water bears may outlive every other species. They are microscopic, soft, and surprisingly adorable. But tardigrades, also known as water bears, are among the most resilient organisms on Earth. You have already encountered them earlier in this list, surviving in space, but their resilience goes even deeper. Tardigrades can withstand freezing, boiling temperatures, intense radiation, crushing pressure, and complete dehydration. They have been found on mountaintops, at the bottom of oceans, and deep inside solid ice. When conditions become difficult, they curl into a dormant form called a tun state, essentially placing life itself on pause. In this state, they can survive for decades, perhaps even centuries. Some scientists believe tardigrades could even survive mass extinction events that wipe out larger forms of life, from asteroid impacts to global radiation. They are not invincible, but they are astonishingly prepared. In the quiet corners of the world, the water bear waits, tiny, timeless, and ready to begin again. Naked mole rats do not age like other mammals. They are strange, wrinkled, and live underground. But naked mole rats are among the most biologically fascinating mammals in existence. Unlike most creatures, they seem to defy the usual patterns of aging. They do not show the typical increase in mortality risk as they grow older. They resist cancer, tolerate low oxygen environments, and live for up to 30 years, an incredibly long time for a rodent. Their cells remain stable. Their proteins resist damage. In fact, a 5-year-old naked mole rat looks remarkably similar to a 25-year-old one, at least internally. They live in complex underground colonies with a single reproductive queen, much like insects. Scientists study them for clues about longevity, cancer resistance, and resilience to stress. In the dark tunnels beneath the ground, these creatures live quiet, hidden lives, small and soft-skinned, yet holding secrets that may one day help us all. The human body contains trillions of cells. You are made of stardust and stories, and also of about 30 trillion cells. Every breath, every thought, and every heartbeat is the work of countless microscopic parts, each with its own role. Muscle cells contract. Neurons fire. Red blood cells carry oxygen. Skin cells renew themselves. Intestinal cells digest. Immune cells defend. Together, these diverse cells form one unified body, one being made from many. But your body is also constantly in motion. Cells continually die and are replaced. You rebuild yourself piece by piece every day. You are not static. You are a living symphony of cellular cooperation. And somehow, everything works in balance. Even now, while you rest, millions of cells are quietly working to keep you whole. You are not one single thing. You are a community, a miracle of coordination, softly humming beneath your skin. Some parrots may be smarter than a young child. They are colorful, talkative, and often playful. But parrots are also among the most intelligent animals on the planet. Studies have shown that some species, such as the African gray parrot, can count, understand concepts such as same and different, and even grasp the idea of zero. A famous parrot named Alex learned to identify colors, shapes, and quantities. He could ask for what he wanted, express frustration, and answer complex questions. In many tasks, he performed as well as or better than a young child. Parrots also use their intelligence in the wild, solving problems, navigating social groups, and even using tools. Their brains are structured differently from ours, but evolution has found a parallel path. When a parrot speaks, it is not always merely imitating. It may also be thinking. Bright feathers, even brighter minds, and a little bird that may be smarter than you realize. The ocean is home to more life than all land combined. We walk on land. We live beneath the sky, but most of Earth's life is hidden beneath the waves. The ocean covers more than 70% of the planet's surface and contains the vast majority of all living biomass. From the smallest plankton to the largest whales, from glowing jellyfish to forests of kelp, marine life thrives in forms almost too numerous to count. Coral reefs, open waters, deep trenches. Each supports a unique community. Even a single drop of seawater can contain thousands of microscopic organisms. We have explored only a fraction of the deep ocean. Much of it remains untouched, mysterious, and filled with unknown life. The sea is not empty. It is overflowing. A vast living world beneath the surface, pulsing with currents and songs. Earth's greatest natural reservoir is blue. The oldest living creature on Earth is an aspen tree. In a quiet grove in Utah stands what may be the oldest known living organism on Earth. It does not look ancient, just a group of ordinary trees with trembling leaves. But beneath the surface, they are all connected. This is Pando, a clonal colony of quaking aspens. Every trunk you see is genetically identical, part of a single root system that may be more than 80,000 years old. Pando does not reproduce through seeds. Instead, it sends up new stems from its roots generation after generation, forming a living forest made from a single tree. Although individual trunks die and grow back, the organism as a whole endures. It has survived ice ages, storms, and time itself. A forest that is also one single being, ancient, quiet, and still very much alive, rooted in place and always reaching toward the sky. Some viruses can be beneficial. When we think of viruses, we usually think of disease. But not all viruses are harmful. Some play essential roles in shaping life, evolution, and even our health. Certain viruses attack harmful bacteria in the human gut, helping maintain microbial balance. Others influence gene expression, insert useful DNA into our genomes, or help cells adapt to stress. In fact, a portion of the human genome, nearly 8%, comes from ancient viral DNA passed down over millions of years. Some of these viral genes are now vital to our biology, involved in everything from brain development to reproduction. Viruses are not just invaders. They are part of the history of life and part of its future. Tiny threads woven into the fabric of who we are, not only as threats, but sometimes as allies. Sharks have been on Earth longer than trees. Sharks are often seen as modern predators, sleek, fast, and dangerous. But their lineage is far older than it appears. Sharks have existed for more than 400 million years. Trees, by comparison, appeared only around 350 million years ago. That means sharks were swimming through Earth's oceans before a single leaf ever shaded the land. They have survived 5 mass extinctions, including the one that wiped out the dinosaurs. Their basic body design has changed very little over time, a testament to how effective and well-adapted they are. Modern sharks come in hundreds of forms, from gentle whale sharks to hammerheads and deep-sea lantern sharks. But all of them carry the legacy of deep time, a lineage almost unimaginably ancient. Every glide through the water is a movement shaped by the ages, silent, steady, and enduring. Rainforests produce their own clouds. Rainforests are not only shaped by the climate, they also help create it. Every day, trees draw water from the soil and release it through their leaves in a process called transpiration. This moisture rises into the air and condenses into clouds. In places such as the Amazon, this constant water cycle helps sustain rainfall, not only locally, but across entire regions. When the forest is healthy, it supports its own climate. But when trees are lost, the effect is profound. Less moisture means fewer clouds and, over time, less rain. A tipping point can be reached where the forest can no longer sustain itself. Rainforests are not merely passive landscapes. They are engines of the atmosphere, exhaling mist, clouds, and life. When you stand beneath the canopy, you are standing inside the lungs of a continent. Some crabs decorate themselves with living sponges. In shallow coastal waters, a small creature practices a quiet kind of camouflage with a special twist. Decorator crabs do not merely blend into their surroundings. They become part of them. Carefully, they collect pieces of algae and sponges and attach them to their shells using hooked hairs. Some even place living sponges on their backs, which continue to grow as the crab moves. This serves several purposes: hiding from predators, imitating the surrounding environment, and sometimes even gaining chemical protection. The sponge may release toxins or unpleasant flavors, making the crab less appealing to predators. It is a partnership, not quite symbiosis, but close. A moving reef, a creature wearing its home as a disguise, constantly adjusting it to remain unseen. In the quiet waters, camouflage becomes art. Insects outnumber humans by billions to one. The world belongs to insects. For every human on Earth, it is estimated that there are 200 million insects. They live in every ecosystem, from rainforest canopies to frozen tundra, from desert sands to ocean shores. Beetles alone account for nearly 1/4 of all known animal species. Insects pollinate crops, recycle nutrients, break down waste, and feed countless other creatures. They have been here for more than 400 million years and have survived every extinction event. Some live for minutes, while others live for years. They build cities, wage wars, and even farm. Their societies can be complex, and their adaptations seem endless. Though small, they are powerful, shaping the world in ways most of us never see. We may imagine that we rule the land, but insects were here first, and they will most likely remain long after we are gone. Birds of paradise perform elaborate dances to attract mates. Deep in the rainforests of New Guinea and nearby islands, birds of paradise display beauty that seems almost unbelievable. Their feathers shimmer in metallic blues, vivid oranges, and velvet blacks. Some grow long, streamer-like plumes. Others spread fans or bounce on long, wire-like tail feathers. But appearance is only part of the display. These birds perform elaborate dances, each species with its own choreography. They leap, spin, bow, and pose in precise sequences accompanied by clicks, whistles, and wing beats. Females watch from above, choosing mates based on their performance. This intense selection has driven the evolution of some of the most extravagant traits in the animal kingdom. Behind every dance is a quiet story of patience, spectacle, and the wild creativity of life. In these courtship rituals, we glimpse evolution's flair for drama and nature's love of display. Spiders use silk that is stronger than steel. In the quiet corners of attics, trees, and garden gates, spiders create something extraordinary. Their silk, drawn from their bodies in long, delicate strands, is one of the toughest materials in nature. By weight, spider silk is stronger than steel and far more flexible. It can stretch without breaking, absorb enormous amounts of energy, and form complex structures such as webs, nets, and egg sacs. Every thread is made of proteins arranged in microscopic patterns, assembled with perfect precision. Different spiders produce different kinds of silk, each with its own purpose: sticky, soft, strong, or flexible. Some can even spin silk underwater or while gliding through the air. Scientists study spider silk for possible use in medical sutures, bullet-resistant materials, and lightweight engineering. But for now, the spider spins in silence, creating miracles from within itself, one silken thread at a time. Fireflies use light to speak to one another. On warm summer nights, the darkness comes alive with tiny flashes of light. Fireflies communicate through bioluminescent signals, flashing patterns that vary by species, region, and even sex. Males fly through the air, sending out specific rhythms. Females respond with synchronized signals from the grass or trees. It is a courtship dialogue written in light. Some species flash slowly, while others flash rapidly. A few produce a soft, steady glow. Inside their abdomens, fireflies combine chemicals such as luciferin and oxygen to create this cool, bright light, a process that produces no heat. It is one of nature's quietest and most enchanting conversations. But fireflies also use their light to warn predators. Some species taste bitter or are mildly toxic. Their glow is both beauty and signal, a living language of flashes dancing in the darkness. Some monkeys use medicinal plants to heal themselves. In the forests of Africa and South America, some monkeys do more than simply eat plants. They use them as medicine. Researchers have observed chimpanzees and other primates deliberately seeking out bitter, non-nutritious plants when they are sick or injured. They chew the pith of specific stems, swallow rough leaves whole, or rub certain substances onto their skin. Many of these plants contain antibacterial, antifungal, or antiparasitic compounds. For example, chimpanzees with intestinal parasites often eat bitter leaves that help purge the worms. They do not consume these plants casually, only when symptoms appear. This behavior is known as zoopharmacognosy, animal self-medication. It challenges the idea that only humans use healing remedies. The knowledge may be instinctive, learned, or both, but it reveals a hidden intelligence. Among the branches and leaves lies a natural pharmacy, and some animals already know how to use it. Algae produce most of the oxygen you breathe. Every breath of air you take is a gift, not only from trees, but from the ocean. Tiny organisms called phytoplankton, which float near the surface of the sea, perform photosynthesis just like plants. They absorb sunlight, take in carbon dioxide, and release oxygen. Despite their microscopic size, these algae produce more than half of Earth's breathable oxygen. They form the invisible foundation of marine food chains, supporting everything from krill to whales. But their role in the atmosphere is just as vital. Without them, the balance of gases in the air would change, and so would the climate. Phytoplankton respond to temperature, currents, and nutrients, and they are deeply sensitive to changes in the ocean. They cannot be seen from the shore, but they are everywhere. A glowing cloud beneath the waves. With every exhalation, remember that the ocean is breathing with you. Ravens can plan for the future. In the quiet corners of forests and cities, ravens go about their daily lives with purpose and remarkable foresight. These birds, members of the corvid family, have been observed saving tools for future use, hiding food in secure places, and even trading for rewards. In experiments, ravens have chosen a less appealing reward in the present when doing so meant receiving something better later. They have used sticks to retrieve food, bent wires into hooks, and demonstrated an understanding of cause and effect. Some even remember the faces of people who have harmed them and hold grudges for years. Their intelligence rivals that of great apes, despite having much smaller brains. And unlike many animals, ravens appear to think ahead rather than simply act on impulse. They are planners, problem solvers, quiet minds wrapped in feathers, watching, learning, and remembering. Snakes can see heat with their faces. For some snakes, vision does not end with light. They can also see heat. Pit vipers, pythons, and boas possess special organs called pit receptors, small openings in their faces that detect infrared radiation. This allows them to sense the body heat of warm-blooded prey, even in complete darkness. The image they perceive is not like human vision. It is more like a thermal map, a glowing outline of warm shapes against a cooler background. This ability gives snakes a powerful advantage during nighttime hunts, helping them strike with astonishing precision. It is not magic, but physics finely tuned through biology. Some scientists compare it to having a sixth sense, a world seen through heat rather than light. A reminder that every species moves through its own version of reality, shaped by the tools evolution has given it and by what it needs to survive. The Arctic tundra blooms all at once. For most of the year, the Arctic tundra sleeps beneath ice, wind, and silence. But when summer arrives, brief, bright, and urgent, everything changes. Within days, the frozen ground softens. The sun remains in the sky for nearly the entire day, and the land bursts with flowers, mosses, and grasses in a sudden and breathtaking bloom. It is not a gradual awakening. It is an explosion of color, fragrance, and life. Pollinators buzz. Birds return to nest. Mammals forage and raise their young. Everything must happen within a short window, sometimes only 8 weeks, before winter returns. It is a rush of energy that echoes throughout the food web. The tundra, though harsh and still, knows how to seize the moment. And in this ancient rhythm of stillness and blooming, life keeps time with the sun. There is a fungus that turns ants into zombies. Deep within tropical forests, a silent and unsettling transformation unfolds. A parasitic fungus called Ophiocordyceps unilateralis infects ants and takes control of their behavior. Once inside, the fungus spreads throughout the ant's body until it reaches its nervous system. The ant, still alive, is compelled to leave its colony, climb the stem of a plant, and fasten itself to a leaf or branch. There it dies, and the fungus continues to grow. A stalk emerges from the back of the ant's head, releasing spores into the air to infect others. This is not science fiction. It is a real biological strategy perfected over millions of years. Although disturbing, it is also a remarkable example of how deeply evolution can shape behavior. The forest holds beauty, yes, but also a darker kind of elegance. And sometimes the smallest organisms wield the most chilling power. Sea cucumbers can liquefy their bodies. At first glance, a sea cucumber may not look like much, just a soft, sausage-shaped creature resting on the ocean floor. But it possesses an extraordinary ability. It can turn itself into something almost liquid. When threatened or moving through narrow spaces, a sea cucumber can alter the stiffness of its body by rearranging proteins within its connective tissue. In seconds, it changes from firm and solid to nearly gelatinous, flowing into cracks and crevices for safety. Then, just as quickly, it can become firm again. Some species can even expel parts of their internal organs as a defense mechanism and later regenerate them. It is a survival strategy unlike almost any other, changing shape without bones, muscles, or conscious effort. Soft, silent, and strangely magical. In the slow rhythm of the sea cucumber glides along, dissolving and reforming like water given the shape of life. Icefish have antifreeze in their blood. In the freezing waters of Antarctica, most creatures would freeze solid. But icefish do not. Their secret is antifreeze. Icefish have evolved special proteins in their blood that prevent ice crystals from forming. These antifreeze proteins bind to tiny particles of ice and stop them from growing, creating a biochemical shield against the cold. Icefish also have other unusual adaptations. They lack red blood cells and hemoglobin, giving their blood a pale, almost translucent appearance. Instead, oxygen dissolves directly into the blood plasma and is carried throughout the body. They move slowly and carefully through icy waters, surviving at temperatures that would kill most other vertebrates. Their unusual biology offers a glimpse into how life adapts to extreme conditions. In the stillness beneath Antarctic ice, the icefish drifts, pale-blooded, cold-hearted, and completely unique. Termites build mounds with natural air conditioning. From the outside, a termite mound may look like nothing more than a pile of earth. But inside, it is a marvel of natural engineering, a city built by insects. Some termite mounds rise more than 30 feet high and house millions of termites within a complex, layered network of chambers and tunnels. What is most remarkable, however, is the ventilation. Termites design their homes to regulate temperature and airflow through convection currents. Warm air rises and escapes through vents, while cooler air is drawn in from below. This passive air conditioning system maintains a stable internal environment even when outside temperatures change dramatically. No blueprints, no architects, only instinct, repetition, and cooperation. It is a natural form of climate control achieved without tools or technology. In the soil beneath our feet, insects have built structures that rival our own. Silent, efficient, and beautifully adapted. Some lizards can shoot blood from their eyes. It sounds like a legend, but it is real. The horned lizard, found in parts of North America, has a strange and dramatic defense mechanism. It can shoot blood from its eyes. When threatened by predators, especially members of the dog family, the lizard increases pressure in the tiny blood vessels near its eyes until they rupture. A fine stream of blood mixed with foul-tasting chemicals shoots outward, sometimes traveling several feet. This sudden and startling burst often confuses or repels attackers, giving the lizard a chance to escape. It does not seriously harm the lizard, and the vessels heal quickly. Although it may seem extreme, it is only one of the many strange adaptations animals have developed to survive. In a world where danger is everywhere, even a drop of blood can become a shield. Small, armored, and astonishing, the horned lizard reminds us that nature never runs out of ideas. Life first emerged in the deep ocean. Long before forests, before fish, before bones or eyes, life began in darkness. Deep within Earth's ancient oceans, hydrothermal vents released mineral-rich water into the surrounding sea. Around these vents, conditions were extreme: scorching heat, crushing pressure, and a complete absence of sunlight. And yet, somehow, life found a foothold. The earliest organisms were simple, single-celled, and lacked a nucleus, feeding on chemicals rather than light. This process, known as chemosynthesis, may have been the first form of metabolism. These deep-sea environments are still home to strange and resilient life. Tube worms, clams, and heat-loving microbes thrive in the darkness. Some scientists believe similar vents may exist on other ocean worlds, such as Europa or Enceladus. If so, life might begin there in the same way. Far from starlight, born in the warm breath of stone, the deepest places in the ocean may also be its oldest cradles. Starfish can regenerate their arms. Beneath the tide, a starfish slowly glides across the seafloor. Calm, silent, and wonderfully strange. If it loses one of its arms to a predator, it does not panic. It grows it back. Starfish are masters of regeneration. Some species can rebuild not only an arm, but an entire body from a single severed limb, as long as part of the central disc remains attached. This ability is made possible by a unique network of stem cells and decentralized nerves. A starfish has no brain, only a nerve ring and a system of tubes that help it move and sense its surroundings. It grows slowly and patiently, rewriting its own body. Scientists study starfish to better understand wound healing and regeneration in other species, including humans. In the stillness of the reef, the starfish offers a quiet lesson that healing is possible and that life can renew itself, one piece at a time. Platypuses lay eggs but feed their young with milk. Among the strangest creatures on Earth, the platypus stands out as completely unique. It has the bill of a duck, the tail of a beaver, and the webbed feet of an otter. It lays eggs like a reptile, yet feeds its young with milk like a mammal. This remarkable creature is one of only 5 monotremes, mammals that lay eggs instead of giving birth to live young. Platypuses do not have nipples. Instead, milk seeps through pores in the mother's skin, and the young lap it from her fur. Males have venomous spurs on their hind legs. They hunt underwater with their eyes closed, using the electroreception in their bills to detect the faint electrical signals of their prey. Everything about the platypus seems like a contradiction or one of nature's jokes, yet it is entirely real. A living relic of an ancient lineage, still swimming through the streams of Australia. Gentle, elusive, and wonderfully strange. Bats use echoes to see in the dark. When night falls and the world grows quiet, bats take to the skies, finding their way not with sight, but with sound. Through echolocation, bats emit high-frequency calls that bounce off the objects around them. By listening to the returning echoes, they can determine the size, shape, distance, and even the texture of their surroundings. Some can catch a mosquito in mid-air using nothing but this acoustic map. Their calls are so precise that they can fly through dense forests, between branches, or even through openings no wider than their wingspan. Not all bats use echolocation, but those that do are among nature's most efficient flyers and hunters. They do not see the darkness the way we do. They hear space. And in that invisible world of echoes and beating wings, the night comes alive with shape, rhythm, and motion. Venus flytraps count before they snap shut. In the warm, sunlit wetlands of the Carolinas, a silent predator waits. The Venus flytrap does not move often, but when it does, it acts with purpose. Its leaves are shaped like open jaws lined with delicate sensory hairs. When an insect touches one hair, nothing happens. If it touches 2 hairs, or the same hair twice within about 20 seconds, the trap snaps shut. It closes in a fraction of a second. Why the delay? Because counting helps prevent false alarms, such as falling raindrops or drifting plant debris. Only the movements of real, active prey will trigger the trap. Once closed, the trap seals tightly and digests the insect over several days. Then it opens again, ready for its next visitor. It is not thinking, but it is sensing, measuring time, and responding. A plant that measures movement and takes action. Penguins propose with pebbles. Along the rocky shores of Antarctica, love takes a quiet and unusual form. When breeding season arrives, many penguin species, especially Adelie and Gen 2 penguins, begin a gentle courtship with a simple gift, a pebble. The male carefully searches for a smooth, rounded stone and presents it to the female with a small bow or offering gesture. If she accepts it, she places it in her nest, and together they begin building a home, stone by stone. These nests protect the eggs from melting snow and keep them raised above the frozen ground. The finest pebbles are in high demand, and penguins sometimes steal stones from their neighbors' nests. But more often, the offering is sincere, a gift, a gesture, a beginning. In the frozen stillness of the South, love is spoken not through songs or scents, but through the gentle clink of stone against stone. Some birds can sleep while flying, high above the waves, where there is nowhere to land. Some birds have mastered an extraordinary ability, sleeping while in flight. Species such as frigate birds and common swifts can remain airborne for days or even weeks, gliding across vast distances without ever landing. To survive such journeys, they sleep with only one half of their brain at a time, a phenomenon known as unhemispheric slow-wave sleep. One side of the brain rests while the other stays alert enough to guide flight and avoid danger. Their eyes even take turns remaining open. It is not deep sleep, but it is enough. As they soar above the sea, they drift in and out of consciousness, cradled by the wind. Nature has found a way for rest and motion to exist together, a delicate balance between vigilance and surrender. And in the quiet sky, some dreams are carried on wings. The human brain runs on tiny electrical impulses. Beneath your thoughts, beneath your dreams, your brain glows with a silent fire. Every idea, every memory, every emotion begins as an electrical signal, a tiny impulse leaping between neurons in the darkness. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion of these cells, each forming thousands of connections and creating an intricate network of communication. These tiny impulses travel along axons, cross synapses, and spread in patterns that become feelings, words, and decisions. It is not electricity like the kind flowing through a wire. It is biological, moving through ion channels and driven by chemical gradients. The result is a storm of light and thought, always changing, always alive. Even in deep sleep, your brain hums with slow rhythms, waves of electrical activity pulsing beneath your skull. You are not powered by wires or gears, but by sparks, tiny flashes that give rise to consciousness. Cuttlefish can disappear in plain sight. Cuttlefish are masters of disappearing. These soft-bodied cephalopods can change the color, texture, and pattern of their skin in the blink of an eye, blending perfectly with sand, rocks, or coral. They accomplish this using specialized cells called chromatophores, iridophores, and leucophores, which expand or contract to create shifting colors and optical effects. Even more astonishing, cuttlefish are colorblind. They cannot see color the way we do, yet they match their surroundings with extraordinary accuracy. Some scientists believe they rely on brightness, contrast, and polarization to guide their camouflage. Cuttlefish can imitate not only color, but also texture, raising bumps or smoothing their skin to match the surface beneath them. It is not only for hiding, it is also used for communication, hunting, and display. One creature, endless disguises, a living canvas repainting itself with every breath. The moon controls coral reproduction. On certain nights of the year, beneath the light of the full moon, coral reefs begin to glow, not with light, but with life. All at once, corals across entire reefs release their eggs and sperm into the ocean during a synchronized spawning event. This happens with astonishing precision, often only once each year, and timed to the lunar cycle. The moon's gravity, its light, and its rhythm signal the corals to act together, increasing the chances of fertilization in the vast sea. For a brief window, the water fills with drifting life, a snowstorm of new beginnings. Coral spawning is one of nature's most spectacular reproductive events. Although these animals remain fixed in place, they still dance to the rhythm of celestial bodies. In the quiet reef, the moon calls, and life answers. Frogs use their eyes to swallow. Frogs may not chew, but they do something even stranger to swallow their food. They blink. When a frog catches prey with its sticky tongue and pulls it into its mouth, it does not rely only on the muscles of its throat to swallow. It pushes its eyes downward, literally pressing them into its skull. This movement pushes against the roof of the mouth, helping force the food down the throat. Sometimes you can actually watch it happen. A slow blink, a gentle downward press, and down the food goes. It is a perfect example of how evolution reuses what is already available. No extra tools, just a clever solution using what is already there. In frogs, even vision becomes part of digestion. A blink that is far more than a blink. A strange and silent push from behind the eyes. Plants can send warnings through the air. When a plant is attacked by a hungry caterpillar, for example, it does not suffer in silence. It sends out a warning. Some plants release volatile chemicals into the air, signaling nearby plants that danger is close. Those neighbors can then strengthen their defenses by producing bitter compounds, toxins, or even toughening their leaves. It is a kind of chemical conversation, subtle and invisible to us, yet powerful in the plant world. The messages can even be specific. A tomato plant may send different signals depending on whether it is being chewed by an insect or infected by a fungus. Some scientists believe this airborne messaging evolved to give related plants, such as their offspring, a better chance of survival. So the next time you walk through a garden or a forest, remember that it is not silent. It is humming with information, from leaf to leaf, from root to root. Some trees can clone themselves for thousands of years. In a grove somewhere in the mountains of Utah or Scandinavia, a tree keeps growing and growing and growing, but not in the way we usually imagine. Some tree species, such as quaking aspens, can reproduce by cloning themselves. A single tree sends out underground roots that produce new trunks above the surface. Each new trunk may appear to be an independent tree, but genetically it is part of the same organism. One such clonal colony, called Pando, is estimated to be more than 80,000 years old. That means it first began growing while woolly mammoths still walked the earth. Even if individual trunks die, the root system remains alive, sending up new shoots year after year, century after century. It is a forest that is also one single being, ancient, quiet, and stretching across generations. In this hidden persistence, time itself takes root, and life endures. Earthworms are natural soil engineers. Beneath your feet, in the dark, damp earth, earthworms are hard at work. They may seem simple, blind, silent, and slow, but they play a crucial role in shaping the world around us. As they burrow, earthworms aerate the soil, creating space for roots to grow and for water and air to circulate. They eat decaying organic matter, digest it, and return it to the earth as nutrient-rich waste. This process helps build healthy soil, the foundation of forests, farms, and food chains. Their movement also mixes layers of soil, redistributing minerals and organic material. Charles Darwin once said that it may be doubted whether there are many other animals that have played such an important role in the history of the world. Silent, tireless, and unseen, earthworms are architects of life itself. In every garden, meadow, and forest, they shape the ground beneath our feet. Giraffes sleep less than 2 hours a day. Towering above the savanna, giraffes seem almost too tall to rest, and in a way, they are. These gentle giants sleep for as little as 30 minutes to 2 hours each day, usually in short bursts. They often rest while standing, although they occasionally lie down for brief periods of deep sleep, curling their long necks backward like an arch. Why so little sleep? Because being tall and relatively slow makes them vulnerable to predators, so they have evolved to remain alert even while resting. One member of a group often keeps watch. Despite sleeping so little, giraffes remain active, curious, and socially complex animals. Scientists still do not fully understand how they thrive with so little rest, but their biology appears finely tuned for survival in open landscapes. Beneath the stars, while lions and hyenas roam, the giraffe dreams, but only for a moment. Microbes can eat plastic. Plastic, once thought to last forever, may not be as permanent as we believed. In recent years, scientists have discovered microbes capable of breaking down certain types of plastic. Some bacteria and fungi produce enzymes that can digest polyethylene terephthalate, a material commonly used in bottles and packaging. They do not do it quickly, but they can do it efficiently, converting synthetic waste into simpler compounds that they can absorb. These microbes have been found in landfills, soil, and even inside the digestive systems of insects. The discovery offers hope for more sustainable ways of managing plastic pollution. Engineers are now studying how to improve or reproduce these enzymes for large-scale recycling. It is not a solution to all our waste problems, but it is a beginning. Even within the mess we have created, life is adapting, finding new niches, new food sources, and new ways to continue. Arctic foxes change color with the seasons. In the cold northern regions of the world, the Arctic fox moves silently across snow and stone. Its fur changes with the seasons, a natural coat shifting between invisibility and survival. In winter, the fox's fur becomes pure white, blending perfectly with the ice and snow. In summer, it changes to a brown or grayish coat, camouflaging the animal among the rocks and grasses of the tundra. This adaptation helps it avoid predators and stalk prey, from birds to lemmings. The Arctic fox's fur is also incredibly thick, insulating it from some of the harshest temperatures on Earth, sometimes as low as 58 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Hair even grows on the soles of its feet. Season after season, it becomes the land beneath its paws. The deep ocean is filled with alien life. Beneath the sunlit surface, far beyond the reach of light, lies a world that seems more like science fiction than Earth. The deep ocean, cold, dark, and under immense pressure, is home to creatures unlike anything found on land. There are fish with lanterns on their heads, translucent predators, glowing jellyfish, and long-legged crabs that walk like machines. Some survive on chemicals released by hydrothermal vents. Others drift through endless twilight, bioluminescent and slow. These creatures endure crushing pressure and freezing temperatures, and yet, they thrive. Because there is no light, many have developed strange features, enormous mouths, unusual shapes, or even near invisibility. We have explored only a fraction of the deep ocean, but what we have seen is astonishing. An alien planet beneath our own, silent, vast, and filled with life waiting in the darkness. Some birds use tools to hunt. We often associate tool use with primates or humans. But in the wild, some birds are just as clever. Ravens, crows, and especially New Caledonian crows have been observed shaping sticks, leaves, and even hooks to extract insects from crevices. But they are not alone. The green heron drops small objects onto the surface of the water to lure fish within striking distance. The Galapagos woodpecker finch uses twigs like tweezers. And the Egyptian vulture uses stones to break open ostrich eggs. These birds do not merely find tools. They choose them carefully, modify them, and use them in ways suited to specific challenges. In some cases, young birds learn by watching older ones, passing knowledge from one generation to the next. It is problem-solving, it is invention, and it is a subtle reminder that intelligence is not tied to hands. It can also soar on wings. Camels can survive for weeks without water. In the harsh deserts of Africa and the Middle East, camels move steadily through sand and sunlight, unhurried, undiscouraged, and rarely thirsty. They can survive for weeks without drinking, and when water becomes available, they can consume more than 30 gallons within minutes. But contrary to popular belief, camels do not store water in their humps. They store fat. This fat provides energy and, when broken down, produces some water as a byproduct. Camels also conserve moisture through highly efficient kidneys, dry waste, and a body temperature that fluctuates to reduce sweating. Their red blood cells have a unique shape that allows them to flow freely even during dehydration. Every part of the camel is adapted for endurance. Long eyelashes block sand. Thick lips allow them to eat thorny plants. Wide feet help them walk across dunes. They are not merely survivors. They are specialists in scarcity. Chicks speak to their mothers before they hatch. Long before a chick breaks free from its shell, it begins making soft, rhythmic peeping sounds from inside the egg. These calls are more than simple noise. They are part of an early conversation. Hens respond to these peeps by adjusting their behavior, sometimes turning the eggs and sometimes clucking softly in return. Even unhatched siblings can respond to one another, helping coordinate the timing of hatching. This subtle exchange helps prepare the chick for life outside the egg, creating bonds and synchronizing development. Some researchers believe that this prenatal communication improves survival by guiding breathing rhythms and even social behavior. The egg, it turns out, is not silent. It is alive with tiny voices whispering their arrival, a heartbeat, a breath, and a call, all before the first crack appears in the shell. Some insects can survive being frozen. Winter is brutal for small creatures, but some insects have evolved to face the cold directly. Certain species, such as the Arctic woolly bear caterpillar or the goldenrod gallfly, can survive being completely frozen. They produce cryoprotectants, special molecules such as glycerol that help prevent damaging ice crystals from forming inside their cells. These compounds act like natural antifreeze, preserving tissues even when the insect's body falls below freezing. In this frozen state, its metabolism slows almost completely. It does not move, eat, or grow, but it remains alive. When spring returns and temperatures rise, it thaws and continues as though nothing happened. It is not hibernation. It is suspended animation. And it is one of the most astonishing survival strategies nature has ever developed. In the stillness of the frost, life waits, quietly moving forward one molecule at a time. Polar bears have black skin beneath their fur. Polar bears may appear pure white, symbols of snow, ice, and cold, but beneath their thick coats lies a secret. Their skin is black. That dark surface helps absorb and retain heat from the sun, a valuable advantage in the harsh Arctic climate. Their fur, although it appears white, is actually translucent. Each hair scatters light, creating the appearance of whiteness while allowing sunlight to reach the skin below. This layered design provides both camouflage and warmth. Polar bears are excellent swimmers and skilled hunters that depend on sea ice to reach seals and other prey. Their paws are large and wide for stability on snow, with small bumps that provide better traction. And beneath it all, their skin draws in every trace of warmth the environment offers. They are not only beautiful, but brilliantly designed to survive in a frozen world. Jellyfish can clone themselves. They drift like ghosts, slow, silent, and ethereal. But jellyfish are more than simple creatures carried by the current. Some species have the ability to clone themselves, especially during the early stages of their lives. If a young jellyfish known as a polyp is injured or divided, it can regenerate into multiple individuals. Even adult jellyfish can sometimes produce new jellyfish from fragments of their bodies. It is not exactly reproduction in the traditional sense. It is replication, a kind of biological reset built into their structure. In the case of the immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii, this ability goes even further, allowing it to return to its juvenile state and begin its life cycle again. In the shifting tides, jellyfish move between damage and renewal. Soft, ancient, and endlessly patient. And in their quiet rhythm, life persists through multiplication, reinvention, and the gentle pulse of the sea. The human body glows very faintly. You shine more than you realize. Like many living organisms, the human body emits a faint glow, a form of biological light that is invisible to the naked eye. This light is not like the glow of fireflies or deep-sea creatures. It is caused by tiny biochemical reactions that occur when free radicals interact with lipids and proteins inside our cells. The result is the release of photons, tiny pulses of light. Using ultrasensitive cameras, scientists have captured this glow, revealing that it fluctuates throughout the day and reaches its peak in the late afternoon. Our faces tend to emit the most light, probably because of greater metabolic activity. It is incredibly faint, about 1,000 times weaker than what our eyes can detect. But it is there, softly shining in the darkness. Your body, even while you sleep, is not completely still. It vibrates, it breathes, and yes, it glows. Some fish can walk on land. The boundary between sea and shore is more blurred than it appears. Several fish species have developed the ability to leave the water and move across land. The mudskipper, for example, uses its strong pectoral fins to walk across mudflats and even climb trees. It breathes through its skin and the lining of its mouth, remaining moist so it can absorb oxygen. The climbing perch, native to Southeast Asia, can survive outside the water for hours and sometimes even days, breathing air directly and dragging itself short distances across land. Some eels have been known to slither across wet grass at night in search of new streams. These amphibious feats are not merely curiosities. They represent evolutionary bridges, echoes of the ancient transition that carried vertebrates from the sea onto land. At the boundary between water and earth, life pushes its limits. One fin, one breath, one step at a time. Fire ants build floating rafts with their own bodies. When floods sweep through their habitats, fire ants do not panic. They join together, gripping one another with their jaws and legs. Thousands of ants form living rafts that float on the water. Each ant holds on to the next, creating a tight, water-resistant structure capable of carrying the colony, the queen, the larvae, and the others to safety. The raft is flexible yet buoyant. Air trapped between their bodies helps keep them afloat. And if the raft is disturbed, it shifts and reforms, adapting to the movement of the water. No leader directs this construction. It emerges from simple rules followed by each ant. Local decisions create collective resilience. These living rafts can last for weeks. They are not merely survival tactics. They are living machines. In the chaos of rising water, a fragile species becomes a single floating organism, calm, united, and unstoppable. A drop of seawater contains thousands of creatures. Dip your fingers into the ocean, and you are touching a vast, invisible world. In just one drop of seawater, there may be thousands, or even millions, of microscopic organisms. Tiny plankton, algae, bacteria, viruses, larvae, and more drift together in a rich, moving soup. Many are translucent, like jewels or shaped like alien sculptures. Some glow in the darkness. Others form the foundation of the marine food web, supporting ecosystems from coral reefs to whales. These microscopic creatures play essential roles in the planet's oxygen production, carbon cycle, and even climate regulation. We rarely see them, but they are always there, moving with the tides, multiplying beneath the sunlight, or hiding in the depths. One drop of water, one world. The ocean, it turns out, is made of galaxies. Life can thrive in pools of boiling acid, in the hostile landscapes of volcanic springs where temperatures rise and acid bubbles. Life still exists. Places such as the hot pools of Yellowstone or the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia are home to extremophiles, microbes that thrive under conditions that would be deadly to most organisms. Some can withstand temperatures above the boiling point of water. Others survive in acidity levels similar to battery acid. They rely on chemosynthesis rather than photosynthesis, drawing energy from sulfur, iron, or other minerals. Their cells are specially adapted to resist damage from heat and acid, with proteins and membranes uniquely suited to the task. These microbes may resemble some of Earth's earliest life forms and perhaps the kind of life we may someday discover on other planets. In the most extreme places, life does not merely survive. It invents. It finds a foothold in fire. And it whispers to us that wherever conditions allow, life will try. Plants can do mathematics to survive the night. When darkness falls and photosynthesis stops, plants must carefully manage their energy reserves, and they do it using arithmetic. During the day, they produce sugars from sunlight and store them as starch. At night, they break down that starch to stay alive. But here is the remarkable part. They divide the amount of stored energy by the number of hours remaining until sunrise, adjusting their rate of consumption accordingly. Too fast, and the supply runs out too early. Too slowly, and energy remains unused. This ability to perform precise biological division, not with numbers, but with molecular signals, helps plants survive on minimal resources. It is not conscious, but it is astonishingly precise. Inside every leaf, a silent calculation unfolds, and every night, without eyes or awareness, a plant creates a plan. Because even during the darkness, life calculates. Owls fly without making a sound. When an owl glides through the night, the air remains still. Its flight is almost silent, a perfect form of stealth refined over millions of years. The secret lies in its wings. Owls have a unique feather structure, with soft-edged primary feathers that break up turbulence and a velvety coating that muffles sound. Even the spacing of their feathers is arranged to reduce noise. This silence allows them to hunt with extraordinary precision, hearing the faintest rustle of prey beneath leaves or snow. No noise, no beating wings, only stillness. Other birds make sound when they fly, but an owl's silence is its greatest weapon. It moves through the darkness like a shadow with wings, a feathered ghost, heard only when it chooses to speak. Some worms can regenerate their entire bodies. Cut most animals in half, and they will die. But a few species of flatworms, such as planarians, can completely regenerate even from tiny fragments. If one is cut into several pieces, each piece can grow into a complete and fully functioning worm. This incredible regenerative ability comes from a special population of stem cells called neoblasts. These cells can transform into any other type of cell, rebuilding muscles, nerves, organs, and even the brain. Scientists study these creatures to understand how regeneration works and whether it might someday help us repair damage in our own bodies. In the stillness of freshwater pools, the flatworm glides and divides, and every time it is broken, it becomes whole again, life refusing to be destroyed. Pigeons can recognize human faces. They may seem ordinary, fluttering through cities and pecking at crumbs, but pigeons are surprisingly intelligent. Studies have shown that they can recognize individual human faces, remembering who has fed them and who has not. Even when people change their clothing, pigeons can still identify them based only on facial features. This ability is part of their highly developed visual memory, which also allows them to navigate across great distances and even distinguish between artistic styles or words in laboratory settings. Once trained, some pigeons can sort objects into categories or learn sequences, behaviors once believed to be limited to primates. In the rush of city life, they blend into the background. But these birds are watching, remembering, and learning. The city is their sky, and you may already be someone they recognize. Your body contains ancient viral DNA. Hidden inside your cells lies a history not only of your ancestors, but also of ancient infections. Around 8% of the human genome comes from retroviruses that infected our distant ancestors. These viruses inserted their genetic material into reproductive cells, and their DNA became a permanent part of our own. Over millions of years, some of these viral sequences mutated and became inactive. Others have been repurposed by evolution to perform useful functions, playing roles in brain development and the formation of the placenta. In a very real sense, you are partly virus. Not infected, but shaped. Echoes of ancient battles now built into the instructions that make you who you are. The human body is not a single story. It is a library of survival woven from creatures long forgotten. The largest living organism is a hidden fungus. It does not tower above the ground. It does not move. It does not roar. But the largest living organism on Earth is a fungus, and it lives silently beneath a forest in Oregon. This individual Armillaria fungus stretches underground across more than 2,000 acres, forming a vast network of mycelium, the thread-like roots of fungal life. It is estimated to be thousands of years old. Above ground, it occasionally produces mushrooms. But the true organism lives in darkness, feeding on tree roots and connecting the forest through a silent network. It is not the tallest, the fastest, or the brightest, but in size, age, and reach, it has no equal. The hidden world beneath your feet may be more alive than everything growing above it. Bees can learn by watching one another. Bees are not only busy, they are brilliant. In one experiment, researchers trained bees to roll small balls toward a target in exchange for a sugar reward. Other bees watching nearby quickly learned the task simply by observing. They even improved the technique, finding more efficient ways to complete it. This kind of social learning, watching and imitating, is rare outside primates and birds. Bees, with their tiny brains, appear to possess a flexible intelligence that goes beyond instinct. Inside the hive, knowledge spreads like nectar, not through words or formal teaching, but through silent example followed by action. The hum of wings carries more than pollen. It carries ideas. Some fish sleep with half of their brain awake. Sleep is universal, but the way it happens can vary dramatically. Some fish, such as parrotfish and certain shark species, show evidence of unhemispheric sleep. Only one half of the brain rests at a time. The other half remains alert, watching the surroundings and controlling slow, steady movement. This adaptation allows fish to remain aware of predators, currents, and obstacles even while resting. In dolphins and whales, a similar sleep pattern allows them to breathe consciously and remain afloat. Underwater, sleep is never absolute. It is partial, watchful, a delicate balance between restoration and survival. Even in dreams, the ocean remains awake. Chameleons change color because of mood, not only camouflage. Chameleons are famous for their dazzling color changes, but they do not change only to blend in. Their colors are influenced by mood, temperature, and social signals. When calm, they may appear green or brown. But during confrontation, excitement, or mating displays, they may shift to bright yellows, blues, or reds. They accomplish this not through pigment alone, but by manipulating tiny crystals in their skin that reflect light differently as they rearrange. It is physics, not paint. Chameleons communicate through their changing shades, sending warnings, invitations, or signs of submission. The forest becomes a stage, and their skin becomes a message. Not merely a disguise, but an expression. Earth's magnetic field shapes animal migration. All around us, invisible lines of force stretch from pole to pole, forming Earth's magnetic field. And many animals can sense them. Sea turtles use magnetic signatures to return to the beaches where they were born. Birds such as robins and warblers navigate thousands of miles using an internal compass. Salmon find their way from the ocean back to the exact stream where they hatched. Even some insects and bacteria use the field to orient themselves. The mechanism remains partly mysterious. It may involve tiny crystals of magnetite inside the body or light-sensitive proteins in the eyes. But the result is clear. Earth whispers directions, and life listens. Life keeps finding new ways to begin again. Despite disasters, extinctions, and cosmic odds, life has never stopped. It emerged from boiling vents in the ocean, spread across continents, took flight, swam into the depths, burrowed underground, and rose into the sky. It adapted to cold, heat, acid, vacuum, and time. Whenever it seemed trapped, it found a new form, a new strategy. It developed feathers, fur, armor, and thought. It built coral reefs and root systems, nests and cities. Even now, in the deepest caves, the saltiest lakes, and the hottest springs, life is beginning again and again. It is not perfect. It is not always beautiful. But it is endlessly determined, in you, in me, in every leaf, breath, and cell. The experiment continues, and the story is still being written. Giraffes almost never need to clean their wounds. In the African savannas, where sharp thorns, dry branches, and fights between males are part of everyday life, giraffes frequently suffer cuts and scrapes. Yet many of these wounds heal with surprising speed and rarely develop serious infections. One reason is the composition of their saliva. Research has identified compounds with antibacterial activity that help limit the growth of microorganisms when the animal licks an injury. This is supported by an extraordinarily efficient circulatory system and thick skin capable of withstanding great strain. Although saliva does not completely replace the immune system, it provides additional protection in an environment where an infection could be fatal. With every movement of its enormous neck and every leaf it reaches among the acacia trees, the giraffe carries a small natural pharmacy developed through millions of years of quiet evolution. Caves hide living clouds of floating bacteria. In some deep caverns where sunlight never enters, the air appears completely still. Yet in certain corners, delicate suspended structures can be found, resembling threads or small white clouds drifting slowly near damp ceilings and walls. These formations are made of bacterial colonies that obtain energy not from light, but from chemical compounds found in rocks and groundwater. Some live on sulfur, while others depend on iron or manganese. As they grow, they slowly transform their surroundings, altering minerals and contributing to the formation of new structures inside the cave. They are complete ecosystems developed in absolute darkness, independent of photosynthesis. There, where life would seem impossible, tiny organisms silently build a world sustained only by chemistry and the patience of geological time. Trees can survive after losing almost all their bark. Bark may seem like a simple protective covering, but it actually contains the tissues that carry sugars produced by the leaves to the rest of the tree. When that ring is completely broken, most trees slowly die. However, some species possess a remarkable ability to recover if even a small connection of living tissue remains. From these tiny bridges, they slowly begin to regenerate bark, closing the wound over years or even decades. Meanwhile, they produce antimicrobial substances, seal exposed areas with resin, and reorganize the growth of new cells. In some forests, trees still live after surviving fires, lightning strikes, or animal attacks centuries ago, carrying enormous open scars along their trunks. Each mark tells a silent story of resilience. Not every wound disappears. Some simply become part of the tree as it continues growing toward the sky. Electric fish can communicate without making a single sound. In the murky rivers of Africa and South America, where visibility is often nearly non-existent, some fish use a language completely different from that of most animals. Instead of depending on sounds or colors, they produce tiny electrical discharges around their bodies. Each species has a characteristic pattern, and each individual can alter the intensity, frequency, or rhythm of its pulses depending on the situation. Through these signals, they locate obstacles, find food, recognize other individuals, and even perform complex courtship rituals. Everything happens in complete silence. What appears to us as a dark and empty river is, to them, a landscape filled with constantly changing electrical forms. Their bodies read these variations as though they were invisible images. In a world where light barely reaches, electricity becomes an ancient language understood only by those capable of sensing it. Mountains continue growing even after millions of years. Great mountain ranges appear motionless when viewed from a distance, but in reality, they never stop changing. Beneath them, enormous tectonic plates continue pressing slowly against one another, raising the rock by only a few fractions of an inch each year. At the same time, rain, wind, glaciers, and rivers continuously wear down their peaks. It is a constant struggle between two enormous forces. While Earth attempts to lift the mountains, erosion silently works to lower them. Some mountain ranges, such as the Himalayas, are still slowly increasing in height, although part of that growth is offset by the continuous erosion of their peaks. What appears to be an eternal landscape is actually a sculpture that never stops being reshaped. Every rock, valley, and cliff represents a fleeting moment within a transformation that will continue long after every human generation has disappeared. Butterflies remember being caterpillars. The transformation from caterpillar to butterfly seems so radical that scientists long believed the brain had to be completely reorganized, erasing all previous experience. However, several experiments revealed something surprising. When certain caterpillars learn to associate an odor with an unpleasant experience before forming a chrysalis, the adult butterflies retain that memory after completing metamorphosis. Although much of their tissue is reorganized during this extraordinary process, certain neurons and connections survive, allowing part of the memory to pass through one of the most profound transformations in the animal kingdom. This suggests that continuity of experience can remain even when almost the entire body changes form. Inside a chrysalis, a new insect is not the only thing being born. A story that began much earlier also continues, from the time when a small caterpillar slowly moved across leaves in search of food. Volcanoes can create completely new islands. In the depths of the ocean, where darkness and pressure dominate the landscape, thousands of volcanoes remain active without anyone being able to see them. From time to time, an underwater eruption accumulates so much lava that it eventually rises above sea level. This is how new islands are born. Some appear within a matter of weeks, rising through columns of steam and ash. At first, they look like completely barren mounds of bare rock. But over the following months, seabirds arrive, then seeds carried by the wind, and eventually the first insects and plants. Little by little, a new ecological story begins from nothing. Scientists consider these islands exceptional natural laboratories for observing how an entire ecosystem is built. Where there was once only open ocean, life finds another place to establish itself. Earth continues creating new landscapes even today, one layer of molten rock at a time. Crocodiles survive thanks to an extraordinary immune system. For more than 200 million years, crocodiles have inhabited rivers and swamps filled with bacteria, fungi, and other potentially dangerous microorganisms. Even so, they rarely develop serious infections, even after suffering major wounds during fights with other individuals. Their blood contains powerful antimicrobial molecules capable of destroying many pathogens, while their immune systems respond very quickly to injuries. These adaptations have attracted the interest of researchers studying new substances with the potential to fight antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Although much remains to be understood, crocodiles represent one of the most impressive examples of biological resilience among modern vertebrates. Beneath their prehistoric appearance lies not only an efficient predator, but also an organism refined by millions of years of evolution against one of nature's most constant challenges, surviving while surrounded by microbes. Mountains can produce their own storms. When a mass of moist air encounters a large mountain range, it cannot easily pass through it. Instead, it begins rising along the slopes. As it climbs, the air cools and the water vapor condenses, forming increasingly dense clouds. Eventually, rain, storms, or even snow begin to develop almost directly over the mountains themselves. This phenomenon, known as orographic lift, explains why many mountainous regions receive enormous amounts of precipitation while the opposite side remains surprisingly dry, creating what are known as rain shadows. Through this process, mountains feed rivers, glaciers, forests, and millions of people who depend on the water they store. They are not simply elevations in the landscape. They act as enormous architects of climate, shaping rainfall patterns across entire continents. From their summits, the land silently influences the movement of the atmosphere itself. Lichens can reveal air quality. Some of the most discrete organisms on the planet also function as extraordinary environmental sensors. Lichens absorb much of the water and nutrients they need directly from the air. For that very reason, they are extremely sensitive to many atmospheric pollutants, especially sulfur dioxide and certain heavy metals. When air quality deteriorates, many species disappear quickly. In contrast, places where lichens grow in abundance and diversity usually have relatively clean air. For decades, scientists have used these partnerships between fungi and photosynthetic organisms as natural bioindicators to evaluate environmental health without the need for complex instruments. Even a lichen-covered rock can tell the invisible story of pollution accumulated over many years. Where they appear to be nothing more than simple patches on a surface, they are actually recording the chemical changes in the air we all breathe. Spiders fly using strands of silk. Many newborn spiders need to leave the place where they hatch to avoid competing with one another. Some solve this challenge through an extraordinary strategy known as ballooning. They climb onto a branch, rock, or raised leaf, lift their abdomens, and release numerous extremely fine strands of silk. When conditions are right, air currents and the natural electrical fields of the atmosphere lift those threads, carrying the tiny spider with them. Some travel only a few feet, while others may journey dozens or even hundreds of miles before landing. Spiders have been found drifting several miles above the ground and even far from shore over the ocean. Without wings, without engines, and with no apparent effort, they use the physics of the atmosphere to colonize new territories. A tiny traveler suspended between the sky and earth by an almost invisible thread. Bamboo plants synchronize their flowering across entire generations. Many bamboo species spend decades growing without producing a single flower. Some wait 30 years, others 60, and certain species more than 100. What is extraordinary is that entire populations spread across enormous regions flower at nearly the same time, even if they have remained separated for generations. After producing seeds, most of these bamboo plants die. Scientists believe this synchronization helps overwhelm seed predators with an immense quantity of seeds, increasing the chances that many will survive and germinate. The exact mechanism that maintains this remarkable coordination for so long is still not fully understood. Silently, while people are born, grow old, and disappear, bamboo continues carrying a biological clock whose countdown may extend across an entire human lifetime before it flowers only once. Manta rays have some of the largest brains among fish. Gliding gracefully through the ocean, manta rays seem to move without effort, as though they were floating through the air. Behind that peaceful appearance lies an extraordinarily developed nervous system. In relation to their body size, they possess some of the largest brains of any known fish. They have demonstrated complex behaviors, rapid learning, and a remarkable ability to investigate unfamiliar objects with curiosity. Some even appear to enjoy visiting cleaning stations where small fish remove parasites from their skin, returning repeatedly to the same locations. They also display elaborate social interactions and strong spatial memory during their long ocean migrations. Although we still know far less about them than we do about marine mammals, every new study reveals unexpected intelligence. Beneath the immense surface of the sea, manta rays travel through a blue world guided not only by instinct, but also by a surprisingly sophisticated mind. Flamingos can feed with their heads completely upside down. When you watch a group of flamingos in a shallow lagoon, it may look as though they are simply dipping their beaks into the water. However, they do it in a way that is unique among birds. While feeding, they turn their heads completely upside down, leaving the beak inverted. This position allows a muscular tongue to function like a powerful pump, drawing water and mud through extremely fine plates that act as a filter. Tiny algae, small crustaceans, and other microscopic organisms become trapped there and provide their food. Even the distinctive pink color of their feathers comes from pigments found in those tiny prey animals. Their entire skull, neck, and beak evolved to perform this movement with extraordinary precision. What appears to be an uncomfortable position is actually one of the most efficient feeding techniques developed by aquatic birds. Once again, nature shows that the most elegant solutions often seem strange at first. Bacteria can exchange genes between different species. For a long time, evolution was believed to move only from parents to offspring, generation after generation. However, bacteria revealed that another path exists. Many of them can transfer fragments of DNA directly between individuals, even when they belong to completely different species. This phenomenon, known as horizontal gene transfer, allows them to acquire new abilities with astonishing speed. A microorganism can receive genes that allow it to resist antibiotics, use new food sources, or adapt to extreme conditions in a very short time. It is as though one book could tear out an entire chapter and give it to another book, which would immediately add it to its own story. Through this mechanism, bacteria evolve at speeds that are impossible for most multicellular organisms. In the microscopic world, information is not always inherited. Sometimes, it is also shared. Desert dunes can sing. In certain deserts around the world, when enormous amounts of sand begin sliding down a dune, something extraordinary happens. The landscape produces a deep, continuous, resonant sound that can be heard from several miles away. Some people describe it as the hum of a gigantic organ or the distant echo of an airplane. This phenomenon occurs only when the grains are very uniform in size and sufficiently dry. As billions of particles slide at the same time, they begin vibrating in unison, generating low-frequency sound waves. For centuries, these mysterious sounds inspired legends about spirits or enchanted mountains. Today, we know they are the result of physics acting on a monumental scale. Even in the absolute silence of the desert, sand can unexpectedly become a gigantic musical instrument played only by gravity and wind. Seabirds can drink ocean water without becoming sick. For most land animals, drinking salt water causes dangerous dehydration. However, many seabirds do it every day thanks to an extraordinary adaptation. They possess specialized glands located above their eyes that remove excess salt directly from the bloodstream. That highly concentrated solution then exits through the nostrils and drips from the tip of the beak. In this way, they can remain for weeks or even months far from any source of fresh water while flying across immense oceans. This ability allows them to inhabit some of the most isolated environments on the planet and complete migrations of thousands of miles without depending on lakes or rivers. Every salty drop they expel represents a sophisticated filtration system developed through evolution. Thanks to it, the ocean stops being an obstacle and becomes their permanent home. Beavers transform entire ecosystems with their dams. When a beaver begins building a dam, it does not merely change the course of a stream. Little by little, it transforms the entire surrounding landscape. The retained water forms ponds that slow the current, encourage water to seep into underground aquifers, and create new wetlands. Over time, amphibians, aquatic insects, fish, birds, and mammals appear in places where they could not live before. Even during droughts, these wetlands store water that keeps many species alive. The dams also help trap sediment and partially reduce the intensity of some downstream floods. Scientists consider the beaver an ecosystem engineer because it physically modifies the environment in ways that benefit many other organisms. Without machinery, without blueprints, and guided only by natural behavior, this small mammal slowly reshapes the landscape. Where a beaver appears, an entirely new ecosystem is often born. Salamanders can rebuild nearly complete organs. If a salamander loses a leg, its tail, or part of its jaw, it does not simply heal the wound. It begins a complex regeneration process that allows it to reconstruct the missing structures with extraordinary precision. Cells near the injury temporarily return to an immature state, multiply, and then specialize again to form muscles, bones, nerves, blood vessels, and skin in the correct locations. Some species can even regenerate parts of the heart, spinal cord, and lens of the eye. Most remarkably, the new tissue regains nearly the same functionality as the original. This ability has made salamanders some of the most closely studied organisms in regenerative medicine. Understanding how they control this process could one day help improve the repair of human tissues. Within these unassuming amphibians, nature preserves one of its greatest secrets about the ability to begin again. Clouds hold millions of tons of water above our heads. A cloud may look light and ethereal, as though it were barely made of vapor. However, many clouds contain quantities of water that are difficult to imagine. A medium-sized cumulus cloud can hold several 100,000 kilograms of tiny droplets suspended in the air. This raises an inevitable question. Why does all that weight not fall immediately? The answer lies in the extremely small size of each droplet and the rising air currents that keep them suspended. Only when the droplets collide, grow large enough, and overcome those currents does rain begin to fall. For hours or even days, enormous masses of water remain suspended above cities, forests, and oceans without us barely noticing. Looking at a cloud means looking at a gigantic floating reservoir supported only by the delicate balance between gravity, air, and atmospheric physics. Giant squid remain one of the ocean's greatest mysteries. For centuries, they were considered legendary creatures described only by sailors. Today, we know they exist, but they remain extraordinarily difficult to study. They inhabit the deep ocean, where darkness is permanent and pressure is immense. Most known specimens have come from individuals found floating, accidentally captured, or recovered from the stomachs of sperm whales, their main predators. Only in recent decades were the first images of living specimens obtained in their natural environment. Their enormous eyes, among the largest in the animal kingdom, allow them to detect faint flashes of light in the deep darkness. Despite technological advances, we still know little about their behavior, reproduction, and life cycle. Even in the 21st century, giant animals still live almost completely hidden from us. The ocean depths continue to guard secrets capable of challenging our imagination. Seals can sleep while continuing to swim. In the cold waters of the ocean, where stopping completely can mean becoming vulnerable to predators or drifting too far from the surface to breathe, some seals have developed an extraordinary strategy. During certain periods of rest, one half of their brain remains asleep while the other continues controlling essential functions such as orientation, swimming, and breathing. This phenomenon, known as unhemispheric sleep, allows them to rest without completely losing contact with their surroundings. They can even keep one eye open while the other remains closed, alternating which hemisphere rests over time. Thanks to this adaptation, they recover physically without giving up the constant vigilance required by marine life. While the ocean appears calm from the surface, beneath the waves some seals dream slowly without ever stopping their movement. Nature found a way to combine rest and survival in one continuous motion. Trees can move water to seemingly impossible heights without using pumps. A tree more than 328 feet tall faces an extraordinary challenge. It must transport water from its roots to its highest leaves while constantly working against gravity. And it does so without muscles, without a heart, and without any kind of mechanical pump. The secret lies in the cohesion of water molecules and the evaporation that occurs in the leaves. As water evaporates into the atmosphere, it gently pulls on the continuous column of liquid filling the vessels inside the trunk, drawing it upward from the soil to the crown. This mechanism, known as the cohesion tension theory, maintains a continuous flow capable of supplying millions of leaves at the same time. If that delicate column were to break, transport would be interrupted. Yet trees have spent millions of years perfecting this system. Every forest is an immense network of invisible columns of water rising silently toward the sky each day. Seahorses can hold on during storms. In the underwater meadows where seahorses live, currents can become extremely powerful. Unlike many fish, they are relatively slow swimmers and could not easily withstand heavy waves. To avoid being swept away, they use their prehensile tails like hands. They wrap them around algae, coral, or seagrass and remain firmly anchored while the water churns violently around them. This adaptation also allows them to rest, hide from predators, and patiently wait for small prey carried past by the current. Their upright bodies, horse-like heads, and flexible tails form a combination unique among modern fish. In the ocean's constant motion, the seahorse finds stability simply by gently holding onto a single underwater plant. Soil bacteria help form clouds. Beneath our feet, millions of microorganisms silently participate in processes that eventually affect the sky. Some bacteria living on plants and in the soil produce proteins capable of encouraging the formation of ice crystals. When the wind carries them into the atmosphere, they can act as nuclei around which tiny water droplets condense. Under certain conditions, these biological particles contribute to the development of clouds and, later, to the formation of rain or snow. They are not solely responsible for these phenomena, but they are part of a complex system in which life and the atmosphere continuously interact. This means that microscopic organisms hidden among roots can indirectly influence weather processes occurring miles above the surface. Earth functions as a deeply connected network in which even the smallest living things participate in the water cycle that sustains all life. Owls can fly almost without making a sound. For most birds, the beating of their wings produces an easily noticeable sound. Owls, however, hunt in remarkable silence. Their feathers have serrated edges and a velvety texture that break up air turbulence and greatly reduce noise during flight. Their wings are also relatively large compared with their bodies, allowing them to remain airborne with slow, gentle movements. Thanks to this combination, they can approach prey almost without being detected. This silence also benefits the owl itself because it allows the bird to hear, with extraordinary precision, the sounds made by small mammals hidden beneath vegetation or even under a thin layer of snow. While most creatures depend primarily on sight when hunting, the owl turns silence into a tool just as important as its sharp talons. Glaciers can move even though they appear completely motionless. From a distance, a glacier looks like a gigantic mountain of ice frozen in place forever. In reality, it is constantly moving. Under the enormous weight accumulated over thousands of years, the ice slowly deforms and flows downhill like an extremely thick liquid. In some places, it advances only a few inches each day. In others, it may move several feet during the same period. As it travels, it erodes mountains, carries enormous blocks of rock, and carves deep U-shaped valleys that can still be seen long after the ice has disappeared. Many of the most spectacular landscapes in mountain ranges were sculpted by glaciers that advanced slowly over countless generations. What appears to be a motionless structure is actually a river of ice moving so slowly that only the passage of time reveals its silent journey. Flying fish can travel hundreds of yards through the air. When a predator chases them underwater, some fish perform an extraordinary maneuver. They accelerate rapidly near the surface using their powerful tails and launch themselves out of the ocean. Once airborne, they spread their enormous pectoral fins, which function like rigid wings, allowing them to glide long distances using their initial speed and the wind. Some species even strike the surface again with their tails without fully submerging, gaining another burst of momentum that extends the flight even farther. Although they do not actively fly like birds, they can travel several hundred yards before returning to the water. This strategy allows them to escape many marine predators, although it also exposes them to birds flying above the surface. At the boundary between ocean and sky, these fish transform a desperate chase into an elegant improvised flight. Farming ants have cultivated fungi for millions of years. Long before humans planted the first crops, some ants were already practicing a complex form of agriculture. Leafcutter ants carry pieces of vegetation into enormous underground chambers, but they do not eat the leaves directly. Instead, they use them as a growing medium for cultivating a fungus that feeds the entire colony. They also carefully remove harmful microorganisms and produce antibacterial substances through beneficial bacteria living on their own bodies, protecting the crop from disease. This relationship has evolved over tens of millions of years into an extremely specialized partnership in which none of the participants could survive in the same way without the others. Beneath our feet are genuine underground farms managed by millions of tiny farmers working without rest, maintaining one of the oldest agricultural systems on Earth. European eels are born in the same place without anyone teaching them the way. Rivers, lakes, and wetlands across Europe are home to eels that will one day begin one of the most extraordinary journeys in the animal kingdom. After spending years growing in fresh water, they quietly leave the rivers and travel thousands of miles to the Sargasso Sea in the western Atlantic Ocean. There, they reproduce and die. Their tiny larvae, carried by ocean currents, take years to return toward Europe, where they find estuaries and rivers and begin the cycle once again. No adult eel guides the next generation. Each one completes this journey using navigational mechanisms that we still do not fully understand and that probably combine ocean currents, Earth's magnetic field, and chemical signals. After millions of years, this mysterious migration continues with a precision that still puzzles scientists. Leaves can cool themselves during the hottest days. Under the intense summer sun, a leaf could become hot enough to damage its own cells. Most plants, however, possess a sophisticated natural cooling system. Through tiny pores called stomata, they release water vapor into the atmosphere by transpiration. Just as sweat cools human skin when it evaporates, this process releases heat and keeps leaf temperatures within safe limits for photosynthesis. When water is scarce, the stomata can close to prevent excessive loss, although this also reduces the amount of carbon dioxide entering the leaf. Every plant must maintain a delicate balance between conserving water and keeping its biological machinery operating. What appears to be a simple, motionless leaf is constantly regulating its temperature through a natural climate control system refined over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Orcas develop traditions that pass from one generation to the next. For a long time, culture was believed to be a uniquely human characteristic. Orcas, however, have shown something very different. Different populations possess hunting techniques, vocalizations, and even food preferences that vary greatly between neighboring groups. Some cooperate to create waves that knock seals from the ice. Others hunt fish using entirely different strategies or follow migration routes passed down through generations. Calves learn by carefully observing their mothers and the rest of the group for years before mastering these skills. This knowledge is not written in their genes. It is transmitted through social learning, forming genuine cultural traditions. Even populations living in nearby regions may maintain completely different behaviors for decades or centuries. Beneath the ocean's surface are complex societies where accumulated experience becomes a shared inheritance, preserved generation after generation by one of the most intelligent predators on the planet. Some bacteria can live by feeding only on rock. Deep within Earth's crust are places where sunlight never reaches, plants cannot grow, and almost no organic matter is available. Even there, life is present. Various bacteria obtain all the energy they need through chemical reactions involving minerals in rocks. They oxidize iron, sulfur, hydrogen, or other inorganic compounds to power their metabolism without depending on photosynthesis. Some survive several miles beneath Earth's surface as part of a deep biosphere that may contain an enormous number of microorganisms still unknown to science. These ecosystems have expanded our understanding of life's limits and support the possibility that similar organisms could exist beneath the surface of Mars or icy moons such as Europa. Even in complete darkness and surrounded only by stone, life finds a quiet way to persist. Araucaria trees preserve a design almost identical to that of the age of dinosaurs. In some regions of the southern hemisphere, trees grow with an appearance that seems remarkably ancient. Araucarias belong to a lineage that already existed when enormous dinosaurs roamed Earth. Their ancestors formed extensive forests during the Mesozoic era, more than 150 million years ago. Although many species disappeared during major climatic and geological changes, some survived into the present while preserving much of their original architecture. Their branches are arranged in highly regular levels, and their leaves are thick, rigid, and durable. Walking among these trees offers a glimpse of a landscape resembling the world known by some of the last dinosaurs. They are not living fossils in the strict sense because they have also evolved, but they represent one of the oldest tree lineages still thriving on the planet. Their silent presence leaves a small window open onto a world lost millions of years ago. Praying mantises calculate distance using three-dimensional vision. Few insects possess visual abilities as precise as those of the praying mantis. Its enormous compound eyes constantly observe the surroundings while it remains motionless, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Recent research has shown that mantises use a form of stereoscopic vision, similar in principle to that of vertebrates, to calculate the distance to their prey. By comparing the information received by each eye, they estimate with remarkable precision when an insect is within reach of their front legs. Using this calculation, they launch an extremely fast attack that usually lasts only a fraction of a second. All of this occurs without a large brain or a complex nervous system. Inside a small and seemingly simple body, evolution developed a sophisticated tool for interpreting the depth of space. They remain still for long minutes, but when they finally move, they do so with almost perfect precision. Peatlands store more carbon than seems possible. At first glance, a peatland may look like nothing more than a wet landscape covered with mosses and small plants. Yet beneath that surface lies one of the planet's largest natural carbon reservoirs. Over thousands of years, plant material dies and accumulates under conditions where decomposition happens very slowly because of the lack of oxygen. Gradually, peat forms, a thick, carbon-rich layer that continues growing over time. Although peatlands cover only a small fraction of Earth's surface, they store more carbon than all the world's forests combined. When they remain undisturbed, they help stabilize the climate. But if they are drained or burned, that carbon quickly returns to the atmosphere. Beneath an apparently peaceful landscape rests a vast reserve built slowly, leaf by leaf, across thousands of generations. Nature also keeps its treasures underground. Hummingbirds remember exactly where they found flowers days earlier. To survive, a hummingbird must visit hundreds or even thousands of flowers every day. Yet it does not do so at random. It possesses an extraordinarily developed spatial memory that allows it to remember the precise location of countless flowers, as well as how long each one takes to refill with nectar. Instead of wasting energy revisiting empty flowers, it organizes highly efficient routes that it repeats over and over throughout the day. It can even remember which flowers were defended by other hummingbirds and which offer the greatest rewards. This ability is essential for a bird whose metabolism consumes enormous amounts of energy and whose tiny heart can beat more than 1,000 times per minute during flight. Every movement represents a delicate balance between energy spent and energy gained. In the apparent chaos of a blooming garden, the hummingbird follows an invisible map carefully built by its memory. Cleaner fish remember their regular clients. On tropical reefs, small fish perform a remarkable service. Known as cleaner fish, they remove parasites, dead skin, and tiny debris from the bodies of much larger fish, which patiently wait while being cleaned. But this relationship goes beyond a simple exchange. Various studies have shown that these fish can recognize individual clients and adjust their behavior based on previous experiences with each one. If a fish returns frequently, the cleaner may provide more careful service to maintain that beneficial relationship. There are even cleaning stations visited daily by dozens of different species. There, predators and prey remain peacefully side by side for a few minutes, observing a kind of temporary truce. In the middle of the reef, where competition for survival is constant, there is also room for cooperation and trust built over time. Plants can recognize their own relatives. At first glance, a group of plants growing together seems to compete only for light, water, and nutrients. Yet some species display far more subtle behavior. Various experiments have revealed that certain plants can chemically distinguish related individuals from unrelated ones. When growing beside their siblings, they partially reduce competition between their roots, avoiding the same aggressive expansion they would use against unrelated plants. This allows the family group to make better use of available resources. The exact mechanism is still being investigated, but it appears to involve chemical signals released by the roots and detected by neighboring plants. Although they have no brain or nervous system, they can adjust their growth according to who surrounds them. Beneath the soil, where sunlight never reaches, roots also take part in a silent network of recognition and coexistence. Narwhals use their tusks to explore the water. For centuries, the narwhal's long spiral tusk was thought to be nothing more than a weapon or an ornament used during competition between males. Today, we know it serves far more complex functions. The tusk is actually a highly specialized tooth filled with millions of nerve endings that make it a sophisticated sensory organ. Through it, the narwhal can detect subtle changes in water temperature, pressure, and even chemical composition. This information is especially valuable in the Arctic Ocean, where shifting ice constantly changes the environment, and finding food depends on interpreting delicate signals from the surroundings. Researchers have also observed narwhals using their tusks to investigate objects, interact with one another, and even stun small fish while hunting. What for centuries appeared to be a simple horn is actually a remarkably sensitive extension of the animal's senses. Deserts can burst into bloom overnight when the rain arrives. For months or even years, some deserts appear completely devoid of plant life. Yet beneath the sand lie thousands of seeds waiting for a single opportunity. When an unusually heavy rain finally arrives, those seeds quickly detect the moisture and begin germinating almost simultaneously. Within just a few days, vast stretches of barren land can become covered with flowers, insects, birds, and small mammals drawn by the sudden abundance of food. Everything happens with remarkable speed. The plants bloom, produce new seeds, and complete their life cycle before the ground dries out once again. Afterward, the landscape returns to its seemingly lifeless appearance. It does not mean life has disappeared. It has simply returned to waiting beneath the ground. Even in the harshest environments, nature preserves an extraordinary ability to awaken when conditions finally become favorable. Squid can communicate by displaying multiple messages at the same time. A squid's skin functions like a giant living display. Thanks to thousands of chromatophores, iridophores, and other specialized cells, it can instantly change its colors and patterns. But some species take this ability even further. They can display a completely different pattern on each side of their bodies at the same time. In this way, they can court a female on one side while displaying an aggressive pattern toward a rival male on the other. Everything happens simultaneously, using a single body to deliver two different messages to two different audiences. This extraordinary ability requires extremely precise nervous control over millions of pigment cells. In the waters where they live, the skin becomes much more than a protective covering. It becomes a sophisticated visual communication system capable of changing both its appearance and its meaning within seconds. Glaciers preserve the history of Earth's climate within their ice. Every winter, a thin layer of snow covers the great glaciers of the polar regions and high mountains. Over the years, these layers become buried beneath fresh snowfall and slowly transform into solid ice. By drilling deep into a glacier, scientists can extract ice cores containing thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years of climate history. Tiny air bubbles trapped inside preserve the composition of Earth's ancient atmosphere. The ice also contains volcanic dust, particles carried by the wind, and even microscopic traces of ancient wildfires. Each layer serves as a page in a gigantic natural archive recording the evolution of Earth's climate. Long before weather stations existed, glaciers were already quietly writing the history of the atmosphere year after year. We have discovered that life can flourish in the most extreme places, that even the smallest organisms possess extraordinary abilities, and that our planet is filled with secrets we are still trying to understand. Every remarkable fact reminds us that, no matter how much we have learned, nature always has something more capable of awakening our imagination.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.